You're listening to She's the Business podcast. If you're trying to scale your service-based business and it's feeling heavier and heavier, then it's likely that you don't have a scalable service model in place. So today I'm going to deep dive into 4 ways that you can scale your service-based business without overloading yourself and burning out in the process. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. Okay, here I am with my review of the month. Thank you very much, Ruth at Lifeness, for this lovely review that you left on the podcast on Apple. This is relating to the episode Signs That You Could Be Heading for Burnout. And Ruth said, there's some great distinctions and insights. Women understand women, get and feel supported. Fill your emotional tank and fill your cup. Reduce expectations. Listen to your body and pull back. And that self-care brings the best version of you. Thanks so much for sharing what your takeaways from that episode, Ruth. Ruth is a health, wellness, and life in flow coach at Lifeness. Thanks, Ruth. Today, we're talking all about scaling. And for a service-based business in particular, scaling is certainly an easy thing to do, but only if you've got a scalable service model in place in the first instance. So today I'm sharing a training that I did with my Facebook group, My Tribe, where I was talking about 4 different ways you can scale your service-based business. But importantly, it's not going to increase the burden on you and the load on your shoulders. This is actually about an easier way to scale. Most people are missing when they come to scaling. Now, this is a live training that I played, so there are some instances where I am holding up a picture that you won't be able to see if you're listening to this audio. However, I encourage you to have a listen because there's so much value in this particular training. You will definitely walk away with some amazing insights and hopefully some actionable tips that you can take back to your business right away and start implementing it. So without further ado, let me play this training for you. Today's topic is called the 4 ways to scale. And the reason why I wanted to bring this to you today is that I see a lot of people thinking about scaling in a way that I believe is very ineffectual. So there's, I guess, what I would call the old way to look at scaling. And the old way would be the traditional business models where we didn't used to be online businesses. We didn't used to be fully online. And the traditional way to scale is to look at how you extend your business into different segments, into different markets, different geolocations. You add more and more and more. And it becomes quite a big burden. You know, a business that expands at that, whether it's sort of replicating itself many times over, it becomes a huge administrative burden. The bigger it gets, the more management staff you need, the more people, the more resources. You know, there's so much effort and energy that goes into just fueling this business and keeping it alive. And the profit margins are pretty stable across it. You know, you're not getting a lot of additional profit because you've managed to move into these other markets. And in fact, at times, I believe you're getting less because you've just got so many more things to manage. It actually takes you more management time to keep the business going than what it does when you're much more narrowly focused. So today, I'm not going to talk to you about those ways to scale. There are different ways to scale that I have noticed are really, really effectual. That's what I've used with my business. It's what I've helped many of my clients to do as well. And these ways to scale are based on
reducing time, reducing the amount of admin effort, but creating more profit growth. And of course, as we grow the business and it does get bigger, there may be a little bit of extra, you might add a team member here or there, but we're not talking about, blowing this out to be a big burdensome business. This is about having something that's fun. It's light, it's easy. It's a lean and efficient business where we're working as little as possible, but we're generating as much as possible. And whatever that is for you, that's very individual. We don't all have the same goals in mind when we think about our business in terms of how long we want to be working, how many hours in a week we've got available. Everybody's quite different in what the objective is and how they want it to fit into their life. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is actually as well about how these strategies can actually help you to create the business that supports your life and fits into your life, rather than overruns it. We don't want to be in that place where we're working and feeling like work is taking us away from all of the other things that are really important for us in our lives. We didn't come onto this planet. I'm sure that none of us grew up with the idea that we just wanted to work our butts off for our whole adult lives. I'm sure that our dreams are actually more about the other stuff that we wanted to do, traveling, and, even without international travel, maybe it was doing a big road trip around your country. Maybe it was, some experiences and taking the kids camping. And it's all of those things. It's the time off that I find are the dreams that we really wanted to have. And of course, we're not having them if we're spending all that time working. So that is what I'm going to share with you today. We will get into it in just a minute. What I see when people try to scale their business and they are approaching it from a different perspective. They're approaching it from, I'm maxed out on time. I want to scale my revenue. How do I do that? And they think straight away, well, I need to add more clients. But when you're already working at your maximum capacity and you're trying to add more clients, some people actually go out and think they need to throw money at ad campaigns to get more clients. How are they going to service them? Where is this fitting? How is this business really going to run? And when you're already at capacity, just adding more fuel to the fire is actually really just going to burn it up so much faster. That's not a smart way to scale. That's a way to end up in a place where, business just gets too hard. And I've seen people have to quit and go back to their jobs to have a break because it just got too stressful. But it was simply because they didn't have what I call a scalable service model. They were trying to scale something that wasn't scalable. They're just, throwing more logs on a fire. It was already burning. There was nowhere for it to go. And that just meant it burnt up those resources. It burnt up the extra time. But if they had a scalable business model, instead of being stressed out, frazzled, and working too many hours, they would be calm, like what I would call a smart working CEO, where, you've just got the business that is exactly the vehicle that you want to have for your life. So I actually drew a little picture and I'm going to hope that it doesn't turn backwards, but let's see if I can bring this up. Yes. Okay. So this is my lovely drawing that I did on my whiteboard of the two ways that people try to scale. And I'm getting used to my camera. So this is like where you're trying to get to, the top of your tall building. This is the top of your goal. That's your business pinnacle. That is the revenue goals. That's where you're trying to reach to. This is what most people try to do. It's like as if they're scaling without a scalable service model. They're actually trying to stack together a whole lot of ladders, and, maybe duct taping them together to get up this tower. But the ladders don't, they wobble, they fall apart. You don't get very far before they break and you fall down. That's not the way that you're going to get to the top of the tower. On the other side here, we have a scalable service model. And this is meaning that we've built a foundation in the business that actually allows you to scale. It takes you up the tower a decent way, and maybe a ladder actually isn't the solution that you needed at all. Maybe this solution is that you can throw a rope up there with a hook on it and climb up much faster. The problem is that when these people are trying to scale without a scalable service model, and they're looking at their, they're trying to tack together these ladders to get up the building. The problem is that, the ladder may not be the most effectual way. And, in my diagram, it's certainly not. But they're focused on the ladder. And so they're running around Googling, what's the best ladder for getting to the top of the tower? And they're asking other people, what sort of ladder do you have? They're really focused on the ladders. But might not be about the ladder. And in my method where I show you, there's many ways that you could get there. The real key is to build a foundation that gets you a long way up your tower to begin with. And then you've got so many options of how you're going to get to the top. And a ladder could be one, but there are many other ways. You could use a rope. You could probably use a helicopter. Maybe you could use suction cups and climb your way up the tower. That's just a metaphor, of course, that I'm using. But, as you can see, it's not, tacking together ladders to try to get up the building is a really ineffectual way because it's not strategic at all. You're just approaching this huge tall tower with a method that clearly doesn't have the ability to get you to the top. Whereas when you build that foundation and you've got that growth pathway, you can see how you're getting up there. Once you're getting close to the top and you can see it, it's so much easier to reach the top of the tower. So, what are the signs that you might be ready for scaling and you might be ready for a strategy shift? Because I think this is actually probably the key thing a lot of people get tripped up on, I'll say, or stuck, is because they don't admit that they're ready, or they don't know how to read the signs, and they're not looking to see, am I really ready to scale? I guess the key thing would be for me, if you're running a service-based business, if you're working all hours and more and then some, and you're not at the level of revenue that you want to be bringing in, then absolutely you are ready for a strategy reset. We need to dive in under the covers and really see what's going on. Remove the things that aren't helping you. They're taking up all the time. And leverage that earning ability so that we can get you to your revenue goals. So that would be primary number one. Yes, if that's happening for you, then you are absolutely ready for a strategy reset. What you've been doing has got you to where you are right now. And it's great. It's great that you're busy. It's great that you're working with lots of clients. But when you come to actually scale your business, you've got nowhere to scale. You've got no space to grow. You're going to be like the person with the ladders trying to tack them together, but they're falling over because you haven't created that scalable service model that gives you the space and allows you to grow. So that would be number one, sign that you're ready. Another sign would be, you've got to a point where you've actually changed your vision about what it is that you want your business to be. And this happens to a lot of us. Many of us, we get to that point where we realize what we're doing right now, that's been great, but there's actually something that you really want to do. Maybe it's something new you want to bring into the business. Anytime you're adjusting or bringing in a new service line, we'll call it, we really need to take an overall view of the whole business service model and see, how does this fit in? How are we going to manage it and still create that scale and growth and your profit? Because simply adding something else into the mix isn't necessarily the best option. You need to think about how does that work fit? How does that fit into our strategy? What is the business position to the market? What's our purpose? What are we leading with? So when you're bringing in something new, your vision's changing, and maybe you don't know what the steps are in terms of, how do I take that shift from what I had been doing to what I want to do? And maybe there's some concerns around existing clients that you might be working with that may not fit the new model of your ideal world and what to do with them. And also, I guess, what has happened with some of my clients in the past is a bit of a fear around if I chop and change, what will happen? Like, I don't want to end up with a gap, or, to cut my revenue down while I'm changing and to have this gap where I'm not being profitable. So it is a lot about that fine tuning the transition for your business so that you can remain profitable and make the move that you want to move, and that it's all strategic and done in a way that, is a really positive outcome for you. The third sign that you might be ready for this kind of strategy, reset, adjustment, tweak, whatever you want to call it, would be where you are potentially working with clients now and they may not be the best fit. Your business has evolved to a point where it's just feeling a bit slow, it's feeling hard. Maybe you've got loads of services. And I can think of a client that I was working with last year who was in exactly this place. She had built a business that was really successful, working with plenty of clients. But she wanted to reach this revenue goal and just could not see how to do it. There were so many things preventing her from getting there with the current way that she'd built her business strategy. And so by shifting, we're using these strategies, which I'm going to go into in just a moment. I'm getting to the 4 ways to scale in just a minute. By using, not even all 4 of them, but the ones that suited her business, using those strategies, really looking at how do these services actually fit together? And what's happened when you've been running a business for a while is that things evolve a little bit. You've tacked on a service here. Clients have been asking you for something additional, and because you can, you're doing it. But it's sort of like, just because you can offer a service, at the time it may have seemed like a good idea, but is it still a good idea? And is it really serving your business to be offering it? So when you think about it, we can sell almost anything we want to. If it was about making money, well, I could make some lemonade and go and sell it on the street corner, sell cups of lemonade. I can make money. There's millions of ways we can make money. Just because we can do it doesn't mean that that's what we should be doing. And, it can be hard to see with your own business when you're right there in the, you're in the trenches, you're doing the work. It's really hard to look at it objectively and subjectively about, what is this array of services that you've now got? And this client in particular had this huge, long, I call it like a menu of services and price list. It was enormous. And, one of the first things I did was sit down with her and say, okay, let's have a look at this, because what of these are serving you? What's not serving you? What's in alignment? Let's look at where you want to take your business to. Is all of this still, part of that future vision? And it was amazing, just the shifts that happened with a few tweaks and changes, removing some stuff that was not profitable and was not helping her business at all. Just the enormous load that came off with that all that baggage, it was gone. It was fantastic. And it gave her time. It gave her much more profitability because she could use that time to earn more revenue. And she quit her part-time job within that month. It was just insane. So some huge shifts happened, and she's continued to make more changes and leverages in her business, and is now at the point where she's ready to scale it up to another whole new level again. So we went through a process that I like to call in my simple scale method, where we start with streamlining, because often when you've got to this point where you need a strategy reset, the first step is streamlining what you already have. Let's uncover the things that are blocking you from growing and scaling, blocking you from earning more money for the time that you're spending. So streamlining that, optimizing it. Then we look at systemizing, and then we look at scaling. So scaling is actually the third step of this strategy or this process, because if you're trying to scale before you've got the time for it or the resource or the capacity, it's just going to fall over, and you don't have room to do it. So, what happens? You end up with clients who are not getting a good service. They may end up leaving. You might end up with the business really going backwards. And what you're trying to do is grow it. So it's just counterintuitive to approach it in that way. So What are the 4 ways to scale? In my program, the Momentum Club, these are the 4 strategic areas that we look at with a business. And the important thing is that for each business, it's not about doing all 4 necessarily, and definitely not all at the same time. It's about really having an understanding of what they are and where you are right now. And when we go through that streamlining phase, the initial one, it's understanding, having that lens where you look at the business to say, well, where are you right now? What's happening? Where should the first focus be? Because through these, we both streamline and then we create the growth and room to scale. So the first one is the service alignment. So like I was just saying in that example, when you've got a big pick and mix list of services, more than likely that there's no real alignment of them, as in you've got a whole lot of stacked services, and the more you add, the more things you have to nurture, water, your messaging for each one of them, different messaging. There's a lot more burden, and it does get quite muddied with what you're putting out there in the market. And this was certainly one of the challenges that my client had was that she wasn't really sure what it was that that they said that they did. A lot of business came through referrals as opposed to people seeking them out because they'd heard about them and that they had a reputation for what they were good at. And that's what happens when you tend to grow like a big long list of services, is that it really muddies your brand positioning, it muddies your message, makes it hard for people to understand, what it really is, what space are you playing in. So with service alignment, I drew another really nice picture on my whiteboard with my stick figures. We'll see whether I can get this on the screen. It's this side here. Oh, nice. So on the top here, this is what it kind of looks like. It's a really basic stick figure drawing. You've got this plate and you've got all these separate services on there, and you're trying to balance them all. And you add more and more, and as you can imagine, that plate just gets heavier and heavier and harder to balance. With an aligned service model, which is what we do, is build your strategy to look more like this. So there's service alignment. They are not separate. They're not individual. They actually work together to help you to retain your clients. Increase the customer lifetime value. And what that means is that, as a business, when you bring in a client, there's a cost of a client acquisition generally. Cost that might be attributed to whatever you are doing right now to gain your clients. So whether that's marketing, the sales systems, activities that you're going to do to acquire a client. So when you take that cost and then you average it out over the lifetime of the client, you get your customer lifetime value. Now imagine if when that service with that client is finished, there's another one for them to go to. Then the amount of time that they stay with you is extending. And so their customer, the customer lifetime value is getting smaller, as in the cost of that acquisition gets smaller and smaller and smaller over time. So your return on investment on the flip side is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's really what we're trying to see here. So when you have an aligned service model, your business is really focused on bringing people in and the journey throughout the business, where they should be going next. Now, it might be sounding like something that could be a little bit new or different to how you've done before. And you think, wow, well, why shouldn't I offer these other things? And, absolutely, you can have multiple offerings. Where it makes a lot of sense is where they do have an obvious next step, and there's a step into the next piece. So with my business, my services are all stacked together where there's a clear next step for anyone. And I also have just one key offer, which is where most people will come into my business. And that's what I talk about 90% of the time, which is generally my Business Jam program. That's kind of like my entry level program where people are needing help to find clients, really get their marketing working. the Momentum Club is, the level above in my structure. So that's for people who are working with clients, but you've got to that point where you need to create some growth. You want to grow revenue. And this is where we need to do that strategy readjustment to get more profit growth in less time and actually get you your time back again. Because now that you've got the business and it's, successfully gaining those clients, we then need to bring in some smarts about, okay, well, who are the clients? How much are we, charging for the services? Let's look at the greater detail at those strategies. Which brings me on to the way to scale number 2. So the second way to scale is all about service strategy. Now in this strategic area, we're really looking at how you are structuring your services, how you're pricing them. There's so many different ways to do it. And what I find is a big mistake a lot of service providers make is pricing their services based on either what they see other people doing out there or based on their time. So, you come out of a job and you think, this is how much I was earning. I'm going to figure out my hourly rate. I'm going to add some for the business and bang, that's how I do my services. And that's fine. That's great to get started with, but that is not a strategic way to provide your services. And you've got no leverage in there because you're literally getting paid for what you're doing. So this strategic area, we're really targeting in to get much better revenue and profit for the amount of time that you're putting in, looking at sometimes even who you're marketing it to. So I had a client who, had been successfally a website designer and doing a lot of work, but she was also a graphic designer. So she'd been doing a lot of pick and mix with her services. And when we refined it down and figured out what her one core offer was, it was also a lot about, well, who is the right person for this offer, and to get that out there so that she was able to not only raise her prices and be earning a decent amount, she was working with the right type of person and attracting them in as well. When you have all of these elements that they're functional and they're working together and aligned, it's just amazing how quickly it works. She was already attracting the right clients, working with them on projects before she'd even updated her website to reflect her change of strategy. And it was just because once she knew exactly what it was that she's offering and she's talking about it, they started to come to her. So it's just, some of these things are so easy to do. I love how we can take a business and scale it and grow it, and this particular client, she's now having a baby. So we are now moving on to the third strategy in these 4 ways to scale. And that is looking at her team strategy, because we can continue to grow her business and she can work less and less and less hours because she's got a baby coming. She's obviously not wanting to work the amount of hours that she was working. She was part-time already because she's already a mum with 2 kids, but with a third on the way, she needs to take some time off and even reduce even further. And so, looking at her strategy around how is her business operating and who's involved, who's doing what. Now, the key with this, and this is, I guess, where I see so many people making a big mistake on their business team strategy, is that they're looking at, they're very capable. And I totally understand that because it was me as well. I'm very much there. I'll just get it done. I can do almost anything, very capable person. You want to do a lot yourself. And I get that. It's easy to do that. But when you figure out what your revenue goal is, how many hours you want to be working, you can get to a sort of an hourly rate for your business that that you would put in to get to your revenue goals. And if your time is worth, $200 an hour, let's say, it doesn't have to be crazy, but you're doing something that is a $20 an hour task, or you could outsource it for $20, $30, then you're losing $180 every hour that you're doing those things. Just to put it into perspective. So, a team strategy is super important. When I look around and see successful, every successful business owner out there, none of them have done it solo. None of them are doing their business on their own. They might be the face of their business for sure, but they have people behind them supporting them. And the ones who have done it the smartest, the real smart working CEOs, they don't have huge teams. They've actually got a really niche, small team, but with really distinctive roles. And it's tailored in a way that people are working at their best. It's leveraged to the hilt so that, they're doing the things that they are best at. And the face of the business can be doing what they need to be doing. And, you're saving so much time and so much money because you're able to generate more money in the time that you're not doing these low-level tasks. So that's a huge part of that strategy. And getting it right for each business, there's not one way to do it. I'm a massive believer that business is very individual to you. So as I said, we're going through these 4 ways to scale, but you will reach a different point for each one at a different point in your business life cycle. Some people are already there. They might be already doing something. They might need to look at the team and readjust it. Other people, you'll approach each of these at different times. So they are a very individualized, personalized approach to your business. So you designing the business that suits you and that gives you the life and outcome that you really want, not something that somebody else has designed or determined. Now, the 4th way to scale, the last one of the 4 in my simple scale method, is it doesn't sound sexy, but it kind of is when you get into it. It's about the automation in the systems. And the reason why this is so important is it's not just about technology. So when I worked with one of my clients last year, she was providing services, and every client proposal, or request that came in, she was customizing a proposal for and spending a lot of time for every client. And every time she'd send out a proposal, she was writing it, even though, you can cross-purpose content that you've done before, but it was customized. She was really going through all of the things that she'd add in for the service, coming up with the pricing each time, looking at the pricing, second guessing herself, all of the doubt, the fears. Will they buy it at that price? Shall I drop it? Just the amount of headspace that would go into putting out a proposal was enormous. And this particular client was at a point in time in her business where she had been pre-kids, obviously able to work full time and had all the time in the world to do that sort of stuff. Whereas now she had a new baby and she was coming back to her business and thinking, I've got a really limited amount of time to work. I need to be maximizing what I'm doing. And so we not only looked at what her service offering was and really helped her to re-engineer it to give her the maximum amount of return for the time she was putting in. And that actually meant adjusting her targeting, adjusting what she was putting out there. It didn't mean changing her service that she was providing. Funnily enough, through doing this process with me, she discovered that she'd been targeting a client that was really helping her to keep her prices low because of the profile of these clients. Whereas where she really wanted to work and the people who got the most value out of had a much more market capacity to spend with her, and we were able to increase it by 5 times what she had been charging before. Now, the 2 of these strategies working together, so with that and with taking away the customization. So I got really tough on her, how can we take away that time you're spending every time customizing your quotes? And by removing that customization, it actually had a double positive effect because it gave her heaps of time back and she could spend the time that she had working to actually be working on client work and to be earning money. But it also took away all of the thinking that was going into the proposals, stopping her second guessing her pricing, stopping her from customizing it all every time because she was actually always providing pretty much the same service. So there was a lot of systemizing that went into even how she was doing her sales system and how she was putting this out to the market, what she was doing in terms of the process. Taking that online. And then the next piece was actually thinking, now she's got all of that, she's gained that time back, we can now add in some other service layers of digital products that just take a bit of time to set up and then not much time to maintain and run. So, and this helped her to provide herself with a lead flow into her main offering, because the digital products were set up for people who weren't quite ready for that stage yet. And so she was able to even build herself a lead funnel, I guess, for her main offering, and be paid for it in the meantime. So it was insane. That was just in the space of a couple of months, she grew by 500% in terms of her revenue and profit, and gained a massive stack of time back for herself. So that was just a huge, huge win by adopting, really a strategic readjustment of her business, and aligning it. So we created the space in the room for her to be able to scale. We streamlined, we generated more profit and revenue just with the one-to-one, before even looking at what other services or scalable services we might add in there. And then able to build her out a scalable service model so that she had, the high ticket one-to-one in there, but she had scalable service offerings that will enable her to grow and continue to grow without adding in more time. So all of these 4 ways to scale are what I teach in the Momentum Club program. And it's a 12-month program because, business isn't something that's done overnight. It's not something that's done in a month. Anybody who's thinking, I just want to, have maybe throw some ads out there and that'll help me to scale and grow. Well, it's like, no, ads are an amplifier to help you with volume in your marketing funnel. They're not a scalable strategy. It's something that can help you to scale in the amount of people that you're attracting, but you need to have the building blocks there underneath where you're actually sending them and the ability to service them as well. So, it's a 12-month program because we work together, in a coaching method. So this isn't a online course where you're off there doing your own thing. There's actual regular coaching twice a month, getting on a group call, really getting deep, because each person is so individual with your business and where you're at. And I do one-to-ones as well as the group so that we get that really good focus session as well to make sure that you're on track with your strategy and really uncover, some of the finer details that we might not cover in a group format. So Momentum Club is open for applications right now. We're kicking off in about a week's time. It's only 10 spots. 4 of them are already taken. And next week, it's still open for people to join, but I'm really asking for applications to come in now so that we have an opportunity to meet if we haven't met before and check that you're a good fit for the program, and then to offer you a spot in the program. So with only 10 spots, I'm really quite precious about who is in there and that they're going to be the right fit. We get into on the group coaching calls some awesome discussion. And people need to feel like it's a great, safe place to share. With some of my previous clients, we've had sessions where there's been tears. We've had the full breakdown, and then we've had the aha moments where suddenly there's the breakthrough that happens after the tears. So it's awesome to watch, and the friendships and bonds that happen in these sessions and with the members is so fantastic, because they're still working together and encouraging and supporting each other now, even though they may not be doing those sessions with me anymore. So it's something that I know a lot of people value so much. And that's why I created the Momentum Club, to have that really good mix of a little bit of one-to-one, a lot of group, and then my guest experts, who are 8 amazing, talented women who are specialists in their field. And, they're there as an extra layer of support for the members. So when they've got a technical question in a particular area, they don't just get my view and my advice, but they've got a specialist there as well who may be able to provide them with even more additional insights into that. So it's a pretty special program. It's a 12-month one. And so we're starting in a week's time. We're open now. If you've been thinking about applying and you're just wondering, well, is this the right time for me? Should I really be doing this now? I know that can be really hard to think, is it the right time for me? Like, what is the right time? How will you know when the right time is? And I tend to think, with something like this, it's not a formula where you have to be at a certain stage in order to do it. This is a strategic approach to your business. So if you're ready to grow your business, then this will work for you, because we're going to be working individually on your strategy, on your growth strategy. Each person will have their own individual plan, and I take you through the strategic know-how and how we build this, and give you all of the frameworks and the formulas, and we put it together. But your plan is your own plan. It's not my plan. You're not replicating someone else's business. You're making your plan for you and what you really want out of it, because that's different for everybody. So yes, is it the right time? I think if you are thinking you're ready to grow, then it absolutely is the right time. When will you be more ready? How will you know when you're more ready? That's the thing that you could sit there and be another year, another 2 years, and be in the same place and then just get really frustrated. Or you could take the steps to change now. Maybe this is the program for you. Maybe it's another one. But, I really feel like the people who I see having success out there in the world are those who take action, and they go out there and get it done. One of the biggest mistakes I made when I first started this business, I had 20 years of experience in marketing and business. And so I didn't think I knew everything. Of course, I was always feeling like I was learning, but I thought I knew enough to be able to figure out what other people were doing, and to look at some of the experts and, the ones that I was looking up to out here in the online business world, and figure out what they were doing, and then be able to figure that out for myself. And I tried that for a few years. Certainly, yes, some things work, but what you're seeing is really the tip of the iceberg. You're not seeing everything else underneath, the whole strategy of why they're doing it, how that's working, the nuances in it, the messaging. There was so much that I wasn't aware of, which, I know a lot more about now. But the change for me happened was when I decided to invest in, someone, an external view, to come in and to stop me from overthinking things, to stop me from second guessing myself, and to help me see my blind spots. Because I didn't know that I had the blocks that I had until they got uncovered. And I was, it's kind of a bit of a shock at times, because you think, I'm not green. It's not the first time I've done this. But it is amazing just the difference that can make. And so that was definitely one of my biggest learnings, was to reach out and to get the support externally sooner rather than later. I wish I'd done it earlier and I hadn't waited around, because I would be even further along now than what I am at the moment. And, I think everybody's always reaching for somewhere more. You look at someone who's, you would think is the top of their game, the most successful, and they would still believe that they have things that they need to work on. They're still working with their mentors and coaches and looking at how they can improve. So, reaching out for help doesn't mean that you're not smart or that you're weak or anything like that. I really had to kind of take myself on a bit of a journey and say, no, it actually means that you're committed to the outcome. I'm really committed that this is my life now. I don't want to go back to the corporate job. I don't want to go back and do what I was doing in my old life. This is what I want to do. And I get so much joy out of helping my clients out of their successes, the coaching sessions. It really lights me up, and it gives me pleasure every day. It's the most amazing thing to do for my job. So I don't want to go back. And that means that I need to, commit to myself and commit and invest in what I know that I need to help me get there. And often it's not the tools and tactics. It's actually the strategy. I've done launches of programs with no sales page, literally just because I've had a really good message and I knew exactly what I was offering and to who, and people buy it. So, you don't need tactics and fancy things. It's really a lot more about the strategy. So if you are interested in putting your hand up for the Momentum Club, please head over to my website today and pop an application in. I'll have a look at that and we'll set up a time for a chat. So you can go to jessicaosborne.com/TMC, and it would be fantastic. It's a program for women who are, if you've been listening to this call, it will be exactly where you are right now, where you're looking at ways to scale, where you're ready to scale your business. But instead of you trying to, Google what is the right way to scale, how should I do it, looking at what other people are doing and trying to replicate it, this is about me helping you to apply some of these strategies and theories to your own situation and business. And so that you're taking those steps forward faster, with a lot less detours, a lot less looking the other way and going off down tangents. I'm there to help you get there faster. So over the year, we have 4 growth phases. Each quarter, you'll have a growth target and a plan and a strategy on how you're going to get there. And that's what I will be helping you do. Thank you so much for taking part and for listening. I've really enjoyed coming on here today. As I mentioned at the start, if you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments. Very happy to answer any questions that you might have, and anything that's coming up for you right now, around any of this, whether it's about scaling, whether it's about, is your business even able to scale? Will this work for me? Well, this can apply to any service-based business, whether you're already doing one-to-one and, online products, whether you're just in one-to-one, even if you think that your industry is locked and has only one way of doing business. We've busted that myth right open in Business Jam recently, because 2 of my clients in Business Jam have actually created totally different ways for their industry to buy their services. So, you can step out from the things that you feel like might be limiting you right now. And it can, it can be hard to do it yourself when that's all that you've known. So it's up to you. If you want to work with me, this is your opportunity. I would love to invite you and to welcome you into the Momentum Club. And that is about it from me. So I will say bye, but thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for watching on the replay. Okay, bye. So if you would like to improve the marketing of your business, then the first place we always start is with your ideal customer avatar. Now, my system for your ideal client is different to most. With my ultimate customer avatar worksheet, there are 35 questions to help you really deep dive into what your ideal client is currently thinking, feeling, and what their goals are, what they're doing in their buying behavior. Go to jessicaosborne.com/customer-avatar to download your free copy of my ultimate customer avatar worksheet today. And let's get started on defining who that ideal client really is.